Imagine this. You're trapped. A vast, unforgiven sea stretches before you, an impassable barrier. Behind you, the thunder of chariots grows louder, the clatter of swords, the war cries of an army sworn to your destruction. This wasn't just any army. It was the might of Egypt, led by a hardened Pharaoh, and they were closing in fast. For the Israelites, this was the end of the line. Their newfound freedom felt like a cruel joke, a brief taste of hope before being swallowed by the sea or cut down by the sword. Fear gripped their hearts. Cries of despair echoed across the shore. They turned on their leader, Moses, their voices laced with panic and accusation. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Moses stood firm, his gaze fixed not on the approaching dust cloud of the enemy, but on something beyond the horizon, something only he could see. He felt the weight of his people's terror, their fragile faith crumbling with every passing second. He knew their fear was justified. They were shepherds, families, not soldiers. They stood no chance against the war machine of Pharaoh. But Moses also knew a power far greater than any earthly king. He had seen it in the burning bush, felt it in the plagues that humbled Egypt. Now, in this moment of ultimate desperation, he held on to that truth. He raised his voice, not to scold, but to steady them. "Do not be afraid," he declared, his voice ringing with a conviction that cut through the noise of their fear. "Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Stillness. How could they be still with death racing toward them? Yet, as Moses spoke, a divine instruction came to him. He was to raise his staff, the simple wooden rod that had become a symbol of God's power, and stretch his hand out over the sea. A simple act, a gesture of faith against an impossible reality. As the first Egyptian chariots crested the nearby dunes, their bronze armor glinting menacingly in the sun, Moses did as he was commanded. He lifted his hand, the weathered staff pointing toward the churning waters. The people watched, breathless, caught between the terrifying advance of the army and the strange, bold action of their leader. What could a man with a stick possibly do against the might of Pharaoh and the vastness of the Red Sea? Then it began. A wind, unlike any they had ever felt, started to blow. It wasn't a gentle breeze, but a fierce, howling gale that tore at their clothes and whipped sand into their faces. All through the night, this mighty east wind raged. But it wasn't just a storm. It was a force with a purpose. Slowly, impossibly, the waters of the Red Sea began to churn and move. They didn't just recede. They began to divide. The people stared in wide-eyed disbelief as the waves pulled back, heaping up on either side. It was a sight that defied all logic, all experience. Two towering walls of water, alive and shimmering, held back by an unseen hand. And between them, where a raging sea had been just moments before, a path emerged. The seabed, miraculously, was not mud or mire, but dry ground. A highway through the heart of the ocean. Oh, replaced fear. Wonder silenced their complaints. Moses turned to his people, his face illuminated by the surreal light reflecting off the watery walls. "Go," he commanded. And they went, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. The entire nation of Israel stepped onto the path God had made. Men, women, children, and their livestock walked between the towering walls of the sea. Imagine walking on the floor of the ocean, with fish swimming past you on either side, contained within their liquid walls. It was a miracle happening in real time, a pathway to freedom carved through the very obstacle that was meant to be their doom. They were walking through their miracle. As the last of the Israelites reached the far shore, the Egyptian army, blinded by their rage and arrogance, did not hesitate. Pharaoh saw the path not as a divine wonder, but as a lucky break, a way to finally crush the slaves who had defied him. He ordered his chariots to charge into the seabed. The heavy wheels and horses thundered down the same path, confident in their pursuit. They were halfway through the sea corridor when Moses, now standing safely on the other side with his people, received another command from God. "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Once more, Moses raised his hand. The moment his arm extended over the water, the miracle reversed. The invisible force holding back the towering walls of the Red Sea was released. With a deafening roar, the water collapsed. The west wall crashed into the east wall, a liquid avalanche of immense power. The Egyptian soldiers looked up in horror as their watery prison came crashing down. Chariots were splintered like twigs. Horses and riders were tossed and submerged in the violent, churning chaos. The pride of Egypt, the most powerful army in the world, was utterly annihilated in an instant. The cries of the mighty army were silenced by the roar of the sea. As the sun rose that morning, the Israelites stood on the shore of their freedom. The sea before them was calm again, as if nothing had happened. But along the shoreline, the evidence of their salvation and their enemies' destruction washed ashore. They were truly free, not by their own strength, not by their own wisdom, but by the mighty hand of God. They looked at the sea, then at Moses, and then to the heavens, and a new sound filled the air. Not cries of fear, but songs of praise. A spontaneous, joyous celebration of the God who had fought for them, who had turned their greatest obstacle into their grandest deliverance. The story of the Red Sea is more than just a historical account. It's a powerful testament to the nature of faith. The Israelites were in an impossible situation, a dead end. In our own lives, we all face moments that feel like a dead-ended diagnosis, a financial crisis, a broken relationship. We feel trapped with the sea of impossibility before us and the army of our past mistakes or present fears closing in behind. In those moments, it's easy to despair, to question, just as the Israelites did. But their story challenges us to look beyond our circumstances. It teaches us to stand firm, to be still, and to trust that the same God who carved a path through the Red Sea can make a way for us where there seems to be no way. Sometimes, the obstacle that seems destined to destroy us is the very thing God will use to display His power and lead us to our greatest victory. What is your Red Sea today? Remember this story. Stand firm and watch for the deliverance of the Lord. Thanks for watching. If this story inspired you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories of faith and hope. See you next time.